Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Gittin Daf Samach Dalid. We're going to begin on the bottom of Samach Gimel and Beis by the new Mishnah. It says the Masnisim. Ha'isha she'amra. If you have a woman that makes the following statement, that hiskabeli giti, that I appointed a shliach Kabbalah, and therefore, as we've established, as soon as that shliach accepts the get, even though she didn't get it yet, she's automatically divorced. So she's making this statement saying that she did this. And Rashi says, "V'hu chazer v'amr kibalti." And the shliach also, he says, yes, I accepted it. So in this situation, sricha shtei kiti edim, we need to produce two different groups of witnesses. First of all, shnayim she'ayimrim bifanenu amra, two people that will testify that she actually made this appointment, that she actually made a shliach Kabbalah. Ushnayim she'oimrim bifanenu kibel the kara, and two others who have to come and say that in front of us this shliach was makabel the get, and he tore it up afterwards. Now, why does it have to be torn up? We'll see that in the Gemara. So afil hein harishayim v'heim acharayim, even if the first two witnesses are the same as the two last witnesses. In other words, it could be the same groups of people for both testimonies. It's not necessarily you have to have two and two. You can even have the same two people. Okay. Now the Mishnah continues on Samach Down Amanal. O echan min harishayim ve'echan min acharayim ve'echan min starif yimahen. You can have one from one from the other. Says Rashi, Shlishi shenasa eid bezu bezu mitzdarif yimahen. So you can, again, you have one witness for both testimonies, that's fine, and he could have just one person that he was mitzdarif with regarding one testimony, and he'll join another different person for another testimony. It says the Gemara, Itmar. Bal oimer lepikadin. So this is referring to a get that was given over to a third party. Now the husband says that I just gave it to you as a pikadon, as a safekeeping. In other words, I never wanted you to actually physically give it to my wife. I didn't want to get divorced. However, the third person said, no, you gave it to me through Gerushin, and I'm considered to be a shliach, says Rashi. So it says that Shlishi Omer Gerushin Nasatali, it was given to me. Shaisi Shlucha Kabbalah, I was a shliach to accept it. And it's Garsha, and she's divorced. But Kabbalati, upon my acceptance, for Isha Yachad Be'ir, it happens to be the man and the woman are both in the same city. So do we believe the husband, or do we believe this shlish? So we have a machlokas. And we're asking, mi mehimin, mi ne'eman, is the husband believed, or who is believed? So Rav Huna Omer Baal Ne'eman, and Rav Chisda Omer Shlish Ne'eman. It's machlokas. So what's the svaras of machlokas? Question 3. Baal Omer Bikadon, L'shush Omer Gershim, Mehem svaras puted Rav Huna Rav Chisda mi ne'eman. So now we're going to answer that question. Rav Huna Omer Baal Ne'eman, why do we believe the husband? Dim Isa the Gershim Yahave Nihile, Dilidida Havi Yoiv Le Nihila. If it would be that he really wanted to give it as a divorce, they're in the same city as we just saw in Rashi, so therefore he could have just physically have given it to her directly. Obviously, the fact that he didn't just give her the get directly, which can maybe come up with a pshat, maybe he didn't want to see her, sometimes it may be uncomfortable, but nonetheless, this is the svara that perhaps you would say that it must be pikadon, because if it was in fact legerishin, he would have given it to her directly. Rav Chisda Omer Shlish Ne'eman Daha Himne. Now we believe the third because obviously the husband trusted him enough to give it to him, so therefore we're going to probably trust whatever this shliach says. So Meisa Rav Abba. So Rav Abba asked the following question. We know there's a concept of Hodas Baal Din Kimei Edom Dami. When a person admits to something regarding monetary matters, the fact that you are the one that's losing, so it's ki'ilu like 100 witnesses are testifying, then therefore you're certainly believed. Now, b'shlish ne'eman mishnehen, it says that a shlish is, the third party is even more believed. So Ketzad, what does it mean, believe from both of them? Ze'omer kach, ze'omer kach, shlish nemon. If you have a dispute between two parties, and the third party comes along, so that he's not a baldover, so therefore is more of a logical reason to assume that he's telling the truth. He has no real skin in the game. It doesn't really matter, right? It's not his money. He's just almost like a bystander. He's involved in this because he's a shlish, so we should believe him. He has the least to lose. So you should certainly say the same thing by our case. So maybe the husband really gave it legershon, but then he changed his mind because he realized, you know what, I didn't want to do this, but it's too late. And we should really believe the shlish, the third party. So how come when it comes to monetary matters, it's different? Because shani mamoin di'asayva mechila. Because we know the shlish is believed because there's a concept of mechila. That, in other words, even if it's not true, we'll still say that you could nonetheless be moichel alone, for example. So since you could forgo the money anyway, so therefore we're going to believe the shlish. However, when it comes to matters of isser, it's not in your hands to be maimin, to be believed. When it comes to me, so I can say, you know what, hadas baldin k'me'edem dam. Yeah, I owe you $1 million. No one's going to argue. So the guy will take it, even if it's not true, because I have the ability to do it. However, I don't have the ability to do what I want when it comes to isser, so therefore maybe in that case we don't believe the shlish. I have a tiny b'chein Gittin. What do you mean? It says also by Gittin is the same din. No, it means Gittin mamoin. It refers not as a get, as we often sometimes think the word get means divorce document. A get means a document, and that's what it means here. It says Rashi she'ein get el lashon shtar. So it has nothing to do with a get, as we understand it, rather monetary. I have osanya the chen l'shtaros. So therefore, it must be coming to talk about shtaros. And when it says gittin, it's specifically talking about gittin. No midi gabi hadadi tanya. They're not written next to each other. So the fact that it says that, it doesn't mean, because it doesn't say v'chein l'gittin v'chein l'shtaros, that you can say, oh, it must be shtaros is money, and therefore gittin is gittin nashim. No, these, says Rashi, hani trei tanoinin hu b'tervayu b'mam and iri. They're two different tanoim, and they're both talking about money. Tanat, ha'isha she'amra hiskabli giti. So now let's go back to our Mishnah. Maybe our Mishnah will shed some light. A woman says that I appointed this guy as my shliach, and hiskabli giti stricha shtei edim. We require two witnesses, two pairs of witnesses. Shnaim she'amra b'vnenu amra. Two witnesses that say that in fact she made this statement. Ushnaim she'amra b'vnenu kibel v'kaira. And two witnesses to testify that in fact this shliach HaKabbalah did accept the get, and then it was ripped up. Fret Gemara, v'mai, why do you need edim? Lehemni l'shlish. Why don't we just believe this third party? That's what we're saying, that l'chayra, this is a raya that we don't always believe a shlish. The fact that you need to come up with all these witnesses, why don't you just believe that? Ask the shliach HaKabbalah, or whoever this guy is. It's the shlish. He's not the husband of the wife. Just listen to him. It must be we don't. So this l'chayra is around the other way. Now, mi kanafi gita metute yade dilehimne, says Rashi. Did they get leave from under their hand? Bifanenu, from before us, l'harai solanu, to see it. Did nemne, that she's believed. Do we actually see where the get is? Do we see the get is in her hands? Do we see where the get is in the shliach's hands? No. Hakaru. That's why the Mishnah says it was ripped up. It's not around. Even though maybe when it's ripped up, it was done in front of us. Ein shlish el im kain hashlishis biyadai. Demigu di iboy habi avid bei madikaimer. He could have done what he was told to do. Nemanami alamirasai. We're going to believe on the statement. He has no migu since he can't give her a torn get. So I understand when it comes to a shlish in general, we're going to believe him because migu, that he has the get physically, he could always just give her the get, and that would be it. And l'chayr, that would be good enough, and that she'd be divorced. So, but over here, because the get is torn, so therefore it's not shaykh for him to be able to give her this torn get. That's what it says. Mika nafigita metute yadei de lehimne. Was the get like given over under her hands that he should be believed? So Tainach Amra. I can understand what you're saying regarding that you need witnesses to testify that she said it. So Kibul Lamali. Why do you need witnesses to establish that the get was accepted? Says Rashi, V'havadi Kible. We certainly know that he was Makabalit. So Amar Rabba Hamani Rebbe Lezer, the Emer Edi Masira Karti. Rebbe Lezer holds that a get is not kosher unless you have Edi Masira. You need to have witnesses that actually see the get being transferred. So unlike the sheet of Edi Chasima Karti, that you just have to have witnesses to see the signature and not the Masira. No, according to Rabbi Lezer, the Chasima of the get is only for Tikkun Olam. But the truth is, the Ksiva, according to him, needs to be Lishma, not the Chasima. Ikar Adin, you don't need a Chasima, as we've seen, assuming that it wasn't forged. However, if it was just even Stam, not even no signatures, it's good, because he holds Edi Masira. But you need Edi Masira. So therefore, the reason why, you're right, technically you should just believe him and that's it. But you need to have Edi Masira to witness this. So Karalam, why was the get ripped up? Again, I understand we're establishing our mission as a case that's ripped, which is the reason why you need to have Edim, because otherwise maybe the shlish should be believed. So Amar Yehuda Amar Rav B'shas Gzera Shana. We're talking about a time where there's Gzera, which is Gzeras Malchus. Basically, they said you're not allowed to do mitzvahs. So of course we're not going to stop us. We're still going to do mitzvahs. But what we do is we do the mitzvah, we rip it up so that no one should know that we did it. Amar Rabbi Umayda Rav Huna. Now Rav Huna, who said that the husband in general is believed when, again, a situation where the Baal says it was pikadon, and therefore we're going to actually believe the husband because he said, because otherwise he could have just given it himself. Di'i Amra, that if she said, Di'i Amra ihi ladidi, Amali shlish delegershin yahavi nihili mehimna, that if she would say, Ihi ladidi to me, Amrli, was said to me, Shlish, the Gershin Yovi, that it was given over to Gershin, then Mehimna. In other words, if she herself speaks up, so even he will agree that we're going to believe the Shlish. So the fact, normally we're going to believe the husband, but if she also speaks up and says that to me also, he said to me, that the Amrli Shlish the Gershin Yahavi Nilay, the Shlish told me that was for Gershin, then that's it. Then we're going to believe the Shlish. It's only when the wife really has no idea, she's not involved, and it's just a dispute between the Baal and the Shlish. But if the woman says it, then we believe. So mi'iki did the Shlish guvmi lo mehimin vihi mehimna. What does that mean? The Shlish, according to him, is not believed. We're going to believe the husband because the husband could have just given it. So we believe the Baal. But if the woman speaks up, then we're going to believe her. It doesn't make sense. Why would we would be more logically want to believe the shlish, who is not really about davar, in the extent that they're not involved in who I'm marrying, who I'm not going to be married to. So we don't believe him, and we need witnesses. So why would we hold that you would believe the shlish in the case just because she admits to it? Eli amra. If she says that in front of me it was said Legershin Yahavi Nihile, the husband gave the Shliach Mehimni, then she'll be believed. Because Migu, then therefore the Shlish will be the one who's believed. Because Migu the Iboy Amra Ledido Yahavi Nihile Baal. She can just say that she has a Migu that she received the get herself. Because the get's not around. So if the get's not around, she could have just said, yes, I personally got the get. I had it and it was ripped up. It's not here. So the fact that she could always have made that taina, she has a migu that she could say, I'm the one that received the get already. So, but she didn't say that, even though it's a much stronger statement, right? Nonetheless, the din is that she will now be believed because she has that migu. Fine. Now, the Gemara says, Baal Omar Legerishin. What happens? Not that the husband says that I gave it to you for a bikadon, but the husband says, yes, I gave it to you for divorce. So it seems like no one's arguing over here. So what's the question? The Hiomeris Nasanli, and she says that it was given to me v'avad. And now the get is lost. So it seems like everyone's really agreeing over here that it's a divorce. So in this, Rav Yochanan havi davar shebe'erva and davar shebe'erva hachas mashtayim. Because we're dealing with a davar shebe'erva, you need 2 witnesses to be able to verify that everything is good. V'mai v'lehimni l'shlish. What are you talking about? We always said we always believe the shlish. You believe the shlish even when the husband says it's a pikadon. So according to the shita of Rav Chisda. So over here, l'chayr, we see clearly that that's not the case, because even when everyone agrees, we say that you need Eidim. Well, why? The shlish should certainly be believed because he says Legerishin, and even the husband says it's Legerishin. And our answer is Mika nafik yitim atuti yadil delahimne. Again, we said, just as we said before, the get's not here, and since the get's not here, the shlish doesn't have a migu. Lehimni delabal, but the husband said that it's a divorce, so that should also be good enough. Diyomer Rav Chiya Baravin. Rav Yochanan Bal Sheomer Girashti as Ishti Neman. If the husband admits that I divorced my wife, that should be good enough. So why do you need Eidim? So Gemara says, Mi Kamar Girashti? Did he really say Girashti? The Baal doesn't know that she received a get. Rather, he made a shliach. All he did was say that I gave him this get not for pikadon, but for divorce purposes. But he didn't actually say, I know for a fact that my wife is divorced. If, in fact, the husband would say, I know for a fact that my wife is divorced because I physically gave her the get, the question is, he is a migu, right? But the point is, if he could have given her the get. But that's not what he said. He instead said that, the shliach can give the get, but he doesn't actually know about it. So therefore, in that situation, he's not going to be believed. Why don't we establish that we just assume that if he pointed the shliach to give the get, why don't we just assume he did it? Because the shliach does his shlichus. This is Gemara elsewhere. So the din is, the Rashi is Shemazu Kroivas Urusasai. So it's shaykh that what ended up happening, he ended up saying, do me a favor, marry a girl. He didn't specify which one. And then the guy dies. The shliach dies. So we have no idea who he ended up being Makadosh. We assume that he actually did the shlichus. So we should believe in this situation that the shliach did his shlichus, and therefore we shouldn't say in davar shebe'er b'pachas mashtayim. As we continue to samach dalad with beis, hani mili l'chumra. The only time we say this din ki had Rav Yitzchak, when it comes to a situation if a person again points a shliach, go and marry a woman, and then the shliach dies, that he's also of all women. It's not that we know for sure. We don't know who he's married to. We have no idea. And we're concerned that what if now he's Makadish a girl who was actually the sister, so he's not allowed to do that because maybe the woman that the shliach married was this other woman's sister. So l'chumra it's a big chumra, but l'chumra we say he's also b'chol nashim. How do we get around that? It's a whole shaila, but that's what the Gemara says over there. The l'chumra he's also to all women. So, but that's only again a chumra. But over here we're not going to use that concept to go makel and say, oh yeah, the shliach did a shlichus, so now we're going to assume that she's divorced, and therefore she can marry whoever she wants. No, it's a davar shebe'erva, and davar shebe'erva pachas mashtayim. In fact, the Gemara v'lehem l'dida. When we believe the woman herself, then midarav hamnuna, dear Rav Hamnuna, isha sharmul abala, a woman who says to her husband, girash tani, I got divorced, nemenes. She's not going to have the chutzpah to say to the man that she was married to that, oh yeah, you gave me a divorce, when it's not true. She wouldn't say that. She wouldn't lie in that way. That would be chutzpah, and she wouldn't do such a thing. So this is going to be question TA2. Let's read the question. There is a time that she will not be believed to say, you, my husband, divorced me. What do you mean? why wouldn't she be believed? It would be chutzpah for her to lie and say this to her husband. That's only when there's no one else to support her claim. Here the husband and the shliach, they all are saying the same thing. The husband said yes to the shliach, go and divorce her. So in this case, it's easy for her to lie. So maybe she would be me'ez panav in that situation. Okay. Says the next Mishnah. Masnis. Nar Hamarasa. So you have a Naira, who was a girl between 12 and 12 and a half. And she had performed Erison, Kedushin. So the Nisuin didn't take place. The wedding wasn't consummated. The din is that she would still need a divorce because Erison took place. As soon as Erison takes place, then she is considered married to the extent that she needs a get. Now, because she's still a Naira, now she or her father can be makabel a get. Now, this is a tremendous chiddush. You would think either one or the other. But because she's a stage of a Naira, she's not a Bogeres, she's not 12 and a half, and she's not a Katana, so she's in this in-between stage of her life. So in this situation, we allow either her or the father. Or maybe you can't have two hands be zeicha like one. Rather, she can't be makabel, but rather it's necessary for her father to be makabel to get. And then the Mishnah concludes, any woman who is not able to guard her get, basically she doesn't understand the concept of what's going on, she cannot be divorced. So question 4, get bito naira. So the question is, can the father accept it? So when it comes to Gittin and Erison, he definitely can. Right? The question is, can she? It's machlos if she can. When it's Nisuin, Eno Zakai. That situation, once even though she's a Naira, it's only Naira Hamarasa. However, and therefore everyone holds that the father can be Makabal. It's Machokas if she can be Makabal as a Naira Hamarasa. But once Nisuin has taken place, no longer does the father have the ability to be Makabal again. So, but my commitment, what exactly says the Gemara is this Machokas, whether or not the girl could also makabel the get. Rabbanan Savri that it's okay because Yadi Yaterta Zachi Lo Rachmana. We have just an extra hand that the Torah is Mazaka, that not only can she be makabel, but her husband, father can also. Yehuda Savar b'makam avia, in the place of her father, Yad Dila Lav Klumhu. Her hand is nothing. So therefore it doesn't work. So what is this referring to? So Tana Rabbah, it depends on the different ages. A katana, when you have a young girl, hodas lishmaskita, she at least is mature enough, she understands that this is her get, and she needs to hold on to it as proof that she's divorced. At that point, misgareshes, then she is able to get divorced. However, she's not capable of holding on to her get and understanding what's going on, that's not divorce. The Gemara explains a little bit better. What is this type of a girl? So, kol shemishemeres gita v'davar acher. Anytime where she can hold on to the get and something else. So, my karma, what does that mean? So, Rabbi Yochanan hachikamar. Kol shemishemeres davar acher machmas gita. Anyone who is holding on to something else because of the get. No, she's watching something else as though it is a get, even if it isn't a star. That's what it's referring to. It says Rashi, She'im kol shemeres davar acher machmas gita. She'im ivda gita. If she would lose the get, mishameres davar acher, she would be guarding something else. She'im doimel, which is not similar to it. Usavor shehu gita, and she'll think it's actually a get. Okay. Maskav Rav Huna bar Manoyach Hashaita ba'almihi. That's hard to understand. It says Rashi, you shouldn't be able to give it to her. It says Rashi, the time Mishmeres star acher mechlal delav star. It's not even a star. What are you talking about? Why would that be acceptable if she thinks something else other than a document is her get? That sounds like a shaita. This is what it means. Kol shemav chenes ben gittin l'davar acher. Any woman who is able to make a distinction between a get and something else. It's not that she thinks something else is a get, because then that's nothing. I mean, she doesn't know what a get is. It's when she's able to know this is a get and this is not a get. So the fact that she's able to make that havdalah, that itself is a level of knowledge, which is interesting. It's the same thing when it comes to havdalah. It's in the pair of atachaynein ladam das, because in order to have das, you have what is the concept of das? Being able to know the distinctions between Yom V'Layla, Shabbos and weekday, etc. That is a distinction. When you can discriminate between different things, that shows a level of knowledge. And that's what she shows. Rabbi Yehuda Ravasi, Sror V'Zarko, Egas V'Noitoi. Let's say you give her a rock and she throws it out. You give her a delicious nut and she takes it to eat. That's a madrega, that she's not going to start eating rocks. That's zoichel atzmai. So she's zoicha to acquire things for herself, and zoichel acher. She's still not able to be zoicha things for others. Says Rashi. If let's say a person was mazaka to his friend, something which was through this katan, so again, they have a kinyan on something. They could acquire something, or maybe even perhaps almost like a get. They have the ability to take things because they are some knowledge of what's going on, even though they're young. But at least they understand certain things. But they're not old enough that if they would give something, that it would be the other person would be kindness. However, let's say chayfetz umachziroi. Let's say you have an object and give it back acher shah after a certain amount of time. So let's say, again, let's say they want to borrow something for 10 minutes, and they understand after 10 minutes they look at their watch and they give it back. So it's a higher level of understanding. So then there's zayich not only for themselves but also others. Those are actually the same. Those two takanos. My david achasi. Once they're able to distinguish and take a chayfetz, a machziro, la'achar shah, and give it back after some amount of time, that's still on the level of only being zeicha themselves, but not for others. So Masav Rav China Vardon Ketza Mishtatvin B'mavui. What's a Vardon? Says Rashi, Mi'anshi Vardana. So Makom. People, these types of people, how could they do a shitufei mavois? Says Rashi, how's it shaykh that when it comes to the din of a shitufei mavois is a mavoi, which is sosum, on three sides, it's open on the fourth, so you create a lechi or kurz, Gemara Erevin talks about, and you need to put the food in one of the chatzeros. That will allow you to carry in the mavoi. Now, in order for you to be able to do a sheet of mavois, it has to be that all the people are participating in purchasing this particular food for this chutzner. The question is, how are you able to do it if you have certain people who don't have that capacity to be able to make those abilities, to be kaina, or to be machna? So, meniach hasachavias, you take the barrel, the army, you say, Harizul chobani mavoy. This barrel is for everyone in the mavoy. And you can be mizakeh for all these people. Hi shivcha hechidami. What is it referring to for even a shivcha? Idias shtei saros, if they're mature enough that they show two signs, two physical hairs. Maboy gabe. What are they doing by you? Well, they should maybe have been freed with simanim. So we see that it could be zaycha acher. So what are you talking about? When you have this girl who's a naira or a certain age, we see that you are able to be zaycha acher. So shani shituvei mavois to rabbanon. When it comes to shituvei mavois, it's the rabbanon. Says Rashi, Demedaraisa. The whole Isser is carrying from your private domain into the Rishus Harabim. The problem is that this mavoi, it's surrounded by three sides. It's open on the fourth side to the Rosh Hashanah. So therefore, midrabanan, we don't want you to carry in the mavoi. You may end up carrying the Rosh Hashanah, which is an Issa D'Oraisa, because you carried from Rosh Hashanah into Rosh Hashanah. Assuming that, again, derech Carmelis, that's a whole question. But the point is, that's the whole reason why we have an Eruv. We're not removing Issa D'Oraisa. You're not allowed to carry in Rosh Hashanah. You can't make an Eruv in a Rosh Hashanah. You can make an Eruv in a Carmelis, which is like a Mavoi, which is closed on three sides. So because it's a Din D'Rabbanan, we're Mekel. So Amar Rav Chisda Ishtik Vardan Ma'havela Meimar. So Amar Rav Chisda Ishtik Vardan Ma'havela Meimar. What could he have said to argue? Our answer is Kol the Takun Rabbanon. Could have always said Kol Takun Rabbanon Ke'in D'Oraisa Takun. So yeah, it's a Din D'Rabbanan, but sometimes we're even more strict when it comes to Din D'Rabbanan, or at least they're on the same level as D'Oraisa. So therefore, again, why would we be lenient to be mezaked al yedei acherim for these people? The idach Kiamrin and called the tikkun kein D'Oraisa tikkun. When do we say that the milsa the isle ikram in the Torah? Only if there's an ikram in the Torah. The milsa the lace la ikram in the Torah low. It has to be there's some connection to an Issa D'Oraisa. But this in itself, a mavoi in its entirety is a din d'Rabbanan. Eruvin in its entirety is a din d'Rabbanan. So even though we say that when the Rabbanan are masakin something, it's in d'Oraisa, it has to have some ikr d'Oraisa. There's some connection to a d'Oraisa. I understand carrying Rosh Hashanah is d'Oraisa, but a mavoi is not d'Oraisa. An eruv is not d'Oraisa. And therefore, we don't apply the concept of kol de tikkun rabban kein d'oraisa tikkun. It's something that an interesting question how to hold that, but that's the pashut shot. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Question. Okay, TA3. I didn't see this one. TA3. Katan shenaisen loit sror. You have a katan that was given a rock, and he throws it out. An egois v'noitlo, o katan shenoislo l'chayvetz ha'machzir l'achasha ma'dinu inin zechia. What is the din when it comes to zechia? So let's just find this in the Gemara. Sor v'zarko egois v'noitlo zoichel atzmo v'in zoichel acherim l'chayvetz ha'machzir l'achasha zoichel ben atzmo ben l'acherim. However, according to Shmuel, he says no, that's not the case. When it comes, even in that situation, it's only la'atzmo and not la'cherim. TA3. Let's just make sure that's how he writes it. Let's see how he says it. Sor v'zarko egos v'naitlo zaychat and zaychel la'cherim. Chavis v'machzir la'achasha zaychat atzmo puter b'gemara and zaych gam la'cherim. Adkan.